Hey everybody, welcome to Press Pause, the video game discussion show. I'm Carl Sodella.
I'm Dan Shu.
Yeah, we got it right.
Yeah.
That's how it goes.
I hope I looked at the right camera, though.
You just look probably there. Today we're going to talk about Skyrim. Finally, we can finally talk about it. We've been under embargo because Dan and I both been playing it for quite a little while.
Yeah, I think you've been playing a little bit more.
Probably
I think you've
more,
had more time.
yeah.
Because, unfortunately, when you gave it to me, that's right when Modern Warfare 3 came out.
Oh.
So I had to split time between the two.
Yeah, we shared the game like a small child. Like
Yeah.
we'd go to visitation rights.
Yep.
And I got her longer. I don't know, I just made her. So anyways, we're going to talk about Skyrim today in the first part, and then next week we're going to talk about more Skyrim, but kind of like more of all the adventures we did on there, and kind of the little things that happened to us. So let's talk about the game in general, or overview, preview, review thing of it. Before we get started, you were talking to the Prima guys. You were talking about the scope of the game.
So it's funny because I was joking about how I had to give up Skyrim to you because we were sharing one copy, right? We got our early copy, and then I'm like, I made some comment about like, oh, my 50 plus hours, I need to play this game, you know, like I can't get started on that. And my friend David Hodgson is one of the key authors at Prima Guides. He's like 50 hours and just kind of scoffed at it. Like it's like 50 hours.
There's a
That's
lot
like,
more than that.
Yeah. So I was like, oh yeah, you know, you work on a strategy. He works on a lot of strategy guides, and it's insane. And I also this is one of the few games that I want to get the strategy guide for. There's just so much to do, right? And if you played the old Elder Scrolls games or Fallout, you have an idea, but this is bigger.
Yeah.
Like so big. Like there's different food ingredients that you can gather to cook meals. There's different pieces you can put together to help enhance your armor and weapons. You can create potions, alchemy, and all that stuff. There's like a lot of these different little subsystems, right, to create stuff. So I'm like, man, I need a strategy guide to kind of help. I don't want to look all over the internet for different things.
Yeah.
So I wrote David. I'm like, give me some numbers, you know, like this has got to be a crazy strategy guide to work on. So just to throw some out, he's like, the guide itself is 550,000 words in length. Can you imagine writing that?
That's a
like,
lot of words.
I'm bitching if I have to write like a 3,000 word article.
Yeah,
like,
that's many words.
Two authors, it took them 2,000 hours, man hours to produce the guide plus 1,000 hours of game time.
Damn, 1,000 hours.
1,000 hours of game time playing. There are 350 primary locations in the game, 200 secondary locations.
350. I'm like looking at 6 on the map right now and going like, man, I hope I get to that mountain someday.
Yeah, 350
Holy
primary
crap.
locations, 200 secondary locations, 500 quest-like activities that include storyline stuff, miscellaneous objectives, world encounters, things like that. And then he said, this is my favorite quote, he goes, "This book is the most bonkers project I've ever done."
The most bonkers.
Yeah.
Because he lost his life for 1,000 hours.
It took
That's insane.
him 5 months and the other guy 4 months, combined 9 months to do this.
So the moral of the story is Skyrim's a really big game. And what's good is you'll probably want to stay there, though. You'll probably want to be in that world, because that's what they do. Bethesda does this. And let's talk about that game that is so massive now. And start.
So I'm guessing most people have played like maybe Oblivion or Morrowind, and they have kind of an idea, right? It's a huge open world adventure. Like in the beginning, it's pretty narrowly focused. Like just go through this dungeon, do this, get used to it, and then it opens up, and then you realize you can go anywhere.
Right.
It's actually the first time my first game was in the series was Daggerfall on a PC,
Yeah.
and I remember looking at the map. I'm like, oh my God, I could go to any of these locations whenever I want. It's not totally non-linear. And then you go into one city, and you could go into almost every building and talk to all these people. I was just like, oh my God, this game is too big.
The only thing is, I remember when, and I was going to mention this, in Oblivion, because it was the first time, and Daggerfall is a good example. The graphics weren't as good, obviously. But in Oblivion was the first time when the graphics were good, and I had that sensation of like, whoa, literally it was like sunny and like the trees and stuff. I'm like, I can go anywhere, this is really cool, and it looks really nice, awesome. So I already had that feeling.
Right.
So then when it happened here in Skyrim, I was like, yeah, I know.
You expect it.
Yeah, expect it. I totally. So if you played Skyrim, I mean, if you played Oblivion, you'll expect it, and it's not that not quite as like overwhelming, like it was the first time in Oblivion. It was like, whoa, really?
But I think though, tell me if you agree. I think it's actually this game is a little bit more overwhelming because I think that first of all, the overworld feels bigger to me because there's a lot in
The
terms
mountains
of,
help. The mountains really make it feel big.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right. Like one of our writers on BitMob, Kyle, wrote this thing about how it's amazing you could, and I was showing my girlfriend this. I'm like, I just panned around, right? I'm like, look at that mountain, we can go there.
Yeah, you can go there.
You can go climb
See
to
the
the top.
mountains. I think the mountains really helped. If you had just like a lot of flat land, you're like, yeah, I could go in that direction.
Right.
But like, yeah, then spoiler, we're gonna probably say a few spoilers in here. Just
Not too
play
much
the
spoilers,
game.
yeah,
But I mean, you can go up a mountain, and one of the quests probably might be about going up a mountain. And when you do the first time, you're like, the weather's changing.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the hell? That's awesome.
It gets worse and worse. Yeah,
it gets
it
worse
feels
and
like
more
you're climbing
snowy.
Mount
It feels like
Everest.
climbing a mountain. And it takes a while. You know, it's like a Fallout or something where you're like, man, I got to really go that far. Well, of course, there is the quick transports at times. So you don't always have to, you know,
And you can get a
traverse
horse and things like that.
a horse, or you could steal one if you want to do that. You could do it. Yeah, so the mountains really feel big. By the way, someone in the chat room mentioned they were saying, Bethesda was saying not to install the game because of graphical issues. I haven't heard of that yet. But I didn't install it, and I've been playing off the disc, and it's been fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
The little pop in and pop out stuff like in Rage, you know.
There's a
because
little
it's disc.
minor to, like when you're accessing the menu, it always wants to load something, and so
Yeah.
sometimes accessing your primary menu is a little slow, but it's not. a
Yeah,
big
it's
deal.
not that bad. So even if you can't install it, don't worry about it. Yeah, okay. So I really like the game. Of course, it's an RPG in this setting. I'm gonna love it. I'm gonna spend all my time on it. I definitely have some issues, but before I get into the bad issues, I'll say the main storyline feels a little more looser, even, which is kind of cool. Like, you know, I don't feel as. I mean, Oblivion let you go anywhere, but this one feels like, yeah, I can literally go through another side quest and it can feel like I'm playing the game.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't feel like I'm just doing a side quest and then you go and you get 500 gold, you know? It feels like you're affecting these people's lives in this little town. Like, I'm going to do this thing, and that's part of the game. You know,
I
going and
think
rescuing
there's some side missions that feel like that. It's just like a really silly, like, just do this one quick fetch quest,
Yeah,
and then it's like, it's all very self-contained in its own bubble. It doesn't affect anything.
I think if you get into the main characters of each town, then they feel more real. Like, you know that main dude from the one town, if you do a mission for him, it's probably going to affect a bunch of stuff,
Right.
or at least a few things. The other interesting thing is that I enjoy first person, I love third person, and what's really interesting that I think they fixed the third person combat in this, and it feels good to me. Now, I know, hold on, let me say a caveat before you give your ugly face. Can you do ugly face again? No, that's a smiley face. The beginning when I did combat, I didn't feel like I was hitting them, and it felt really bad. Like when I was swinging my sword, I was just doing combat, like physical combat, bam, and I didn't feel like I was connecting with them. Did you feel that?
Do you feel like it was worse than the old games? Because they always had a little
They've
bit of
always, but I mean, maybe I did. Maybe I didn't remember that it was that bad, but I mean, literally, there was like no, like, oomph, I got hit. There was just me swinging, and then every once in a while, he would go down. And I felt like, man, this is a new game, a new era. Let's have more contact when I hit him.
Yeah.
But then what's interesting is that when I switched to third person for combat only, and I'm a mainly melee guy, I was using a lot of the block, and the block felt like connection. Like I was blocking, and then I was hitting, and it felt really good.
Because you also recoil a bit from the block, or they'll stagger back a little bit if you like, shove them back.
And so what I ended up doing is I'm playing this game mainly with a melee guy. I'm Redguard, and I'm playing with a two-handed weapon, awesome, like, you know, axe or hammer, whatever when I pick. And I feel like whenever I go to combat, I switch to third person.
Really?
And it feels really cool because in first person, it feels like again, I don't feel like I'm connecting. But in third person, I feel a little more like I'm battling. Does that make sense?
No, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So for me, like, yeah, the combat's not one of the selling points of this series.
No.
So to me, like, first person, if this is the very first time I'm playing Elder Scrolls, I'd be like, oh my God, this combat is just total crap. But I know those are my expectations, right? Because I played Oblivion, played Morrowind. I know that's what it's like, and it just feels kind of empty at times.
Empty is the perfect
word. But
yeah.
And hollow, right? But the thing is, I'm kind of used to that. What I don't like about third person is this is probably the best looking Elder Scrolls game yet, but it's still, their animations are not good, right?
No,
If you watch a guy, like, especially if you have a follower following you around and they do exactly what you do, right? If you pull out your weapons, your follower will pull out the weapon. If you crouch, they will crouch. If you sheathe your weapons, they'll do the same thing. And but when you watch that, it's so ugly, right? It's like, it's not natural. You feel like a computer character following me around and not a person following me around, you know? Even though you could talk to them and they have a personality and all that. And then I hate looking at my character when she's crouching or something like that. So.
Why are you looking at her when she's crouching? What are you doing with the game?
She's on a screen.
Yeah,
you're
but
gonna see it.
I
Like,
hate like checking her out while she's crouching.
I'm like, if I'm crouching and sneaking, it looks ugly.
I'm just trying to pull Dan. That's what you would do.
But anyway, so the.
Let's talk about the lighting for a minute. Are you having
Oh
those
yeah,
issues?
you told me you had. I know what you're talking about.
So in the game, when you look up at the sky, I think it simulates the idea of the kind of when you look up at a bright sky, it kind of gets brighter, and then when you look away, it gets a little darker.
It's darker until your eyes adjust.
Until your eyes adjust.
Yeah.
But it does it all the time, to almost a fault, in my opinion. Because not all the time am I looking at the sun either. Like I feel like I'm just in a cave looking at some fire, and then turn around and my eyes have to adjust. It's such a small thing, but
it's a little distracting.
Does any of you guys experience that, and does it bother you? That's my question, but go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's a little distracting, but I don't think it's bad, and I think it's kind of, so what I did to compensate for it is just turn up the brightness.
I know I did too, but then it's not as it's not as crisp.
But what's cool, like now.
And you shouldn't have to change your TV for the game.
I do that anyways. Like, you know, like most games, there's settings like you should not see this logo.
Oh, so you make it all the way bright.
I'm like, I don't care what you say it is. Like, I don't want that.
I won't
dark
listen
content.
to you.
Yeah. But in this game, imagine being in a dark dungeon that's only lit by a few light sources, like a torch and something like that, right?
I know.
Those dark areas should be dark, right?
Okay, I did it somewhere where it was like in a forest, midday.
I know what you mean. It
happens some other times.
It's kind of a glaring effect. Like they overcompensate it to like, look, your eyes are adjusting, right? Instead of it being a subtle thing.
And the first time it happened, I was like, because my brother was watching me play at the beginning, and the first time it happened, I was like, this is so amazing, awesome. My brother comes in, he's like, oh, that's weird. Is that supposed to do that? And then I'm like, yeah, I think it is. And then it's really cool. And then shut up or whatever. And as I'm playing more, it keeps doing it. And he's like, no, that's just annoying. And I'm like, yeah, you're kind of right. It is doing it a lot. So that's a small thing. Yeah, in general, obviously get it. I mean, it's a get it.
I think actually on that lighting thing, I think if you didn't bring it up to me, I don't know if I would even.
Now it's going to bother you for the rest of the time.
And now it's going to bother everyone who's watching.
Bother everybody. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
well, really, it's my brother's fault. He brought it up.
Yeah, I wouldn't have noticed. I wouldn't have cared.
It's
but now I know
everybody's game.
Yeah.
What's interesting though, they didn't add, and then we'll talk a little bit about this more in part 2. But when we kind of get into the stories and some of the stuff that we've done in it. Oh, this is on. I'm sorry. Is that actually you can't really play bad, can you? I mean, I'm always interested in this. Oblivion, a lot of these RPGs, if you aren't familiar, you can play good and bad, and there's a lot of gray area where you can kind of do some things that you would not normally do, like kill someone you didn't think you were gonna, or whatever, do the bad mission or something. And then sometimes there's an outcome. And in Fallout, it really felt like that really made sense lots of times. And Fallout, the old days, it did too, the old school Fallout. Fallout 3 really felt that way at times, where if I literally killed this guy from this whole area, there's side quests that are just gone, and people react to me totally different. And it felt like that, And in this one, so far, it doesn't feel like when I do things too bad, that it affects too much.
Yeah,
do you notice that?
Well, one thing they don't have, like in Fallout 3, is the good bad meter, right? Or it's very black and white. Like, this is a bad thing, this is a good thing, and
it's
just like that.
And shows
where Skyrim is more open-ended, which I much prefer. It's more organic. It's like, okay, maybe I'm mostly good, but I just want to steal this piece of bread.
Yeah, and that's fine.
I just want to be a jerk for like 1
second.
second.
Meter was a little excessive, but at the same time, I just want to see a little bit more repercussion of it.
No, that is true, because like I'd rather it be organic, where I don't have a meter to worry about. It's not a gameplay function of measuring my good versus evil intentions. But what I do like is, or what I don't like, I agree with you, is where when sometimes you do something to, you hurt somebody or you betray somebody, right? And then their first reaction to you might be like this is very early on. This guy asked me to do something, and I'm trying to avoid spoilers.
Yeah.
He asked me to do something. I went against his wishes and did the right thing, because what he wanted was
the right
bad.
thing. I like how you're like, I did the right thing, which is the Dan thing.
Went against his wishes. The next time I saw him, he was clearly angry at me, but then he forgot it.
Yeah, he forgot it.
And after that, it was like he was just normal, he was a bard and he sang a song at my
He was
request.
just off singing. Yeah. Oh, I met that guy. I know what he's talking about. And then other things, even like within the world, pro and a con here is the pro. Some of the animals are amazing, like these huge woolly mammoths are walking around. It's awesome, giants and stuff like that. And then the animals react to other animals, which is cool. I always want that kind of real feeling. Like there was this big bear. Bears are tough, by the way. Watch out for bears. And, well, not for me anymore. Got a two-handed weapon. Bears are tough, and there was a bear across the river, and he was trying to get to me. And, of course, he didn't want to go into the water, I guess. he had to find rocks to cross. Anyways, he found a wolf, and the wolf was like, coming toward me too. So, but he found the wolf before me, and it was on his side of the river, so he killed the wolf. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. That's cool. But then other times it doesn't do that, or there's not enough of that, even with the people, that like you said, the memory goes away.
Yeah.
So it just gets close. It's almost like we talked about before with like Grand Theft Auto 4 and some of the stuff where it gets close to realistic. Uncanny Valley kind of stuff, and you're like, well, then why doesn't it do that?
Yeah.
Why does he forget what I just did?
It's almost better like if they didn't try to make it so realistic, because then you don't notice those things. But that's just kind of us being picky, right?
It is.
I think because it's still so epic and grand of a game that it's like, I think you're going to find something out of it.
You're gonna have fun. So your pick is obviously
Yeah, definitely get it.
Get it, yeah.
If you're now, it's easy to get overwhelmed. It's easy to get overwhelmed in this game. So what I was going to say earlier, like what we're going back to those numbers, right? Why I need a strategy guide, and I've never felt this about Oblivion or Fallout. Like I was just like, I need some help here or there.
Yeah.
Like Fallout 3. Here's a good example.
Fallout 3 was pretty freaking massive.
It's massive, but here's an example. Fallout 3 had those weapons that you had to create using schematics, right? You'd find a formula, and then you're like, okay, get these ingredients, you can build this gun. It's pretty straightforward. Now imagine that times 100 and having several of those types of sub gameplay brewing type things, right?
Yeah.
So like in this game, there's alchemy. You create potions. You create different kinds of food.
The food thing, by the way, just to cut you off, is actually helpful because it regenerates health points. So like food is not just for like.
Okay. So now you have a million different types of food to pick up, right? Apples and pies and leg of lamb and whatever. There's like a million different individual pieces of food. Then you go to like a kettle or something, and you could cook, and it'll say like, do you want to make this dish? You need 2 pieces of this, 3 of this, and whatever. And then you combine them and you brew a dish that gives you more benefits than the individual pieces individually, right?
Which is just like in real life.
It's
an apple, but then apple pie is much better as the apple pie.
Right. It's
so realistic.
It's so much to keep track of, because that's just one. The food thing by itself is a lot to.
Yeah.
If you want to get into it and you want to like cook these different meals and give you different benefits, that's a massive system on its own. Not counting alchemy, not counting enhancing your armor or forging weapons and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the forging weapons seemed like cool, and like right away I was doing it.
There's a lot of things to get. There's like so many little ingredients.
Although it was hard to find the iron ore thing, right? What isn't iron ore the thing you have to add to the weapons? There's like one main ingredient. I was like, where the hell do you find this? Because I cannot find enough of it. I had like one piece.
Yeah. I almost feel like you have to decide, like, I'm not going to do 2 or 3 of these things. I'm just going to concentrate on 1, maybe 2, because otherwise you're going to pick up, like like if I'm out in the field, I'm like, flowers, I might need this for a potion. I start picking out flowers, and then or like I want to get ore, I want to get these metals, I'm going to just start gathering that. Or you could create jewelry.
Yeah,
there's another system, right?
Whoa. So what I see, you want to get flowers, you want to make apple pies, and you want to make jewelry. That's what Dan Schiff says he does in Skyrim. To bring it all together. No, I'm sorry. No, you're right.
No, I want to
need
make
a special
badass swords and battle axes.
I just want to kill people. No, you're right. There's lots of different systems. We need Prima guides, so they should probably send us some. Just saying.
That would be helpful.
It would be helpful. So maybe get a guide when you get Skyrim. And so we're both saying get it.
Get it.
It's awesome. And you'll lose large parts of your life.
Yeah, it's going to entertain you for so long. And
it might not entertain your spouse.
I wish it came out.
Girlfriend or boyfriend.
Next year, like I don't want to.
I know there's
Modern Warfare 3 and this at the same time.
It's a
I don't have
time
for this.
Yeah. Well, anyways, we're saying get it, and you should check us out on Twitter, because we're on Twitter. Press Pause Show. Dan, you're at BitMobShoe. I'm at Onawa, and come back next week. We're going to talk about more Skyrim and what we did in the game. Maybe some spoilers. Bye. Game over.